So what is Scrum? So in this mind map, I'm going to help you understand more about Scrum slowly. So Scrum is a framework and a methodology. So what happens in this framework? This framework follows a set of practices. Okay, so this framework, Scrum framework, follows a set of practices. So this practices is nothing but how people work, when do they work, how do they kind of give some output to the software. So Scrum is all about self-organizing teams working together in collaboration. They inspect, they adapt, and then they have a lot of transparency. So these are the pillars of the Scrum. So, so Scrum follows agile mindset. It follows an empirical process. So what is an empirical process? An empirical process is one in which we inspect and we adapt. We inspect things, is it working fine or not, and then we adapt it, right? We make some tweaks, we make some changes, and then that's going to work efficiently. And also, one more part of this is that one of the pillars of Scrum is transparency. So inspection, adaptation, and transparency. Transparency is the third pillar of Scrum. So all of this kind of help us work better. So transparency happens because we use a lot of Scrum boards. Everybody knows what's on the what's the work in front of us, who's going to do what. So that's about the Scrum board and the transparency. So Scrum is used for what? It is used to deliver projects. Okay. Once a project is launched, we use another framework called Kanban framework. Okay. But when we want to deliver projects, we use Scrum. That's the main difference. So for faster delivery of softwares, we use Scrum methodology, wherein we kind of deliver projects at regular intervals from a shorter duration of 2 to 4 weeks. We are giving value to the customer. So the shorter duration, the faster delivery happens with MVP. MVP is a minimum viable product, something that can be used by the user easily in a short duration of time. So that's the MVP. Okay, so let's go a little bit forward more. So and we deliver high business value. So in this short duration, we are going to deliver high business value to the customer. Then how is this delivery happening? Through iterations and sprints. So the software is built through a lot of iterations, sprints, and then the user gets the output. Okay, so a working software. So that's about how is it used for, and then it is a way of continuous improvement, step by step improvement, right? Consistently we are improving, we are having some checks, feedbacks, and we are adjusting the way we are working. So that's all about Scrum at a very high level. Let's move ahead into more details. So what is Scrum framework? Let's try to understand that in detail. Okay, so Scrum has got few set of roles. So what are the roles in Scrum? So the first role is that of a product owner. A product owner is a person who works with the end users, the business, and understands what is the valuable software that is needed for the end user. And then he comes back and works with the delivery team and then ensure the development team, what we call in Scrum, and ensures the software is built. That is the first role as a product owner. This is the person who does all kind of prioritization. So that's the most important thing is here that the prioritization of the work, what value needs to be delivered to the customer. We'll see more details on the slides of the product owner. So then we have the Scrum Master. A Scrum Master is the servant leader on the project who kind of facilitates the entire sprint, the delivery, helps people understand Scrum principles, Scrum values, agile mindset, and then ensure the software is delivered. He is the one who's kind of removing impediments or roadblocks for the work that's happening. And then we have development team. A development team is a set of people, the developers, testers, analysts, UI designers. All of these people are working together to kind of build this software. Yes, that's the development team. So first thing, Scrum framework is the roles. Next, we'll see what are the artifacts. So what are the artifacts we're maintaining in Scrum? So the first one is product backlog. Product backlog is set of all the features that need to be built. Okay, it is a long list of features. On project, this never gets end, right? We keep on adding features that are needed for the customer. So it's an exhaustive list of things that needs to be built and delivered to the customer. That's the product backlog. Sprint backlog is the prioritized portion of the product backlog that the development team comes and executes and delivers in a particular iteration called sprint. Okay, that's the sprint backlog. Product increment. Product increment is the working software that comes at the end of the sprint. Once we demo something at the end of the sprint in sprint review, that's the product increment. We'll have separate slides for all of these roles, artifacts, and give more details so that you understand more. But just want to put a small mind map so you get the picture of this particular roles, artifacts, because mind maps help us in learning faster. It uses both the right and the left side of our brain to gather more information. Okay, so then ceremonies or events. So what are these ceremonies or events in Scrum? So the first one is sprint planning. This happens in the beginning of the sprint. Okay, so we plan what needs to deliver, we set a goal and all other things that's needed to kind of or to be delivered for that particular sprint. We discuss, we estimate, we break down tasks. We'll see more in the coming slides. So then we have daily scrum. Daily scrum is also called as the daily stand-up, wherein people stand for 15 minutes and then try to understand what did you do yesterday, what we're planning to do today, and then are there any roadblocks. And that's daily scrum, daily stand activity. That's more like a progress check for on the sprint towards the sprint goal. Then we have got sprint review. Sprint review is done at the end of the sprint, on the last day of the sprint. It takes at least 2 to 3 hours to demo what has been developed based on the size of the sprint. For a 10-day sprint, it's like at least 2 hours. For a 30 days, sprint, like 4 hours of demo also. And then retrospective. So this is one of the agile principles that says at regular intervals we kind of review what has been delivered. So the retrospectives happen, the sprint retrospectives or that we check how the sprint go, what we could have done better, and like how we could improve, what went wrong, and what are the action items. We'll see more of this in the coming slides. Then lastly, a sprint. So what happens in the Scrum framework? We kind of deliver sprints. In a sprint, every sprint we are designing, we are building, we are testing. So every sprint has these 3 iterations. So that's on about the Scrum framework, mind map. I would request you take a pen and paper, pause the video. If you want to just sketch this out, it'll be easier for you to understand what are the different roles, ceremonies, artifacts, and what happens in a sprint for a Scrum. So let's go and understand deeper about Scrum roles. So the first role is of that of a product owner. So what does a product owner do? He works with the end users. A product owner works with the end users. He understands like what features need to be delivered. He defines the features. He defines the stories. He kind of comes and chops down like what has to be built for this particular sprint in the sprint. So that's what a product owner does. He prioritizes the features. So prioritization is one of the key tasks of a product owner. Then he is also coming to review the product demos, to inspect things, to ensure that everything is working fine. So he's also then the sprint reviews and sprint demos. Then he is the person who's ensuring we get return on investment for this particular software that's being built. Okay, usually if you're in service organization, product owner will be in the product side, in the client side, or if you have a product-based company, it could be a solution people who are the product owners who are helping you build this. Then he attends the sprint planning and the sprint review. So these 2 meetings, surely he'll be attending. Other meetings, the daily scrum and retrospectives are optional for him. He could also give a feedback for the retrospectives. So this is what a product owner does. Scrum roles. Scrum roles are now, what does a Scrum Master do? So Scrum Master is a servant leader. Okay, so he's the person who's ensuring that team gets all the things necessary to deliver the output. Any explanation or clarification needed, he's working with the business users, the product owner, to ensure that the details are there. He's working internally with cross-functional teams to ensure all the access is there, all the resources are there, removing impediments. Right, he's also helping the team learn and understand Scrum. Okay, so he removes impediments. He helps the PO, the product on POs for the product on managing the product backlog. He promotes Scrum, he guides team, he helps people in adopting Agile. So that's his role. He also facilitates the Scrum ceremonies like sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, retrospective. So these things he's facilitating. And he's a systems thinker. He thinks about the whole of the project. Like, why are we doing this project? What's the benefit, right? So that's the greater role of a Scrum Master. Okay, so this is what a Scrum Master does. Let's go ahead and try to understand more about them. About now, the next role is the development team. So development team is a group of developers, testers, designers working together to build the software, right? So what do the development team do? So the development team kind of, they own the sprint backlog. They deliver the working software. Okay, so that's what a development team does. Then they demo the product. So after the product is built, they're demoing it. They have got developers, testers. So they code things, they test things. So these are things that the development team keeps doing. So they are like T skill shaped. So like for example, there will be experts in one particular skill, like say coding in one thing, but they'll also do some kind of testing also. So they could be pro in, let's say, Java, and then maybe in front end they knew at least some basics, right? So we want them to be stretched across words, like jack of all and master in one. That's what these skills means. Okay, and they're part of all these Scrum ceremonies. So they should be available in all the Scrum ceremonies that happen, and they are self-organizing teams. They're picking and the work and doing it themselves. Nobody's going to assign them tasks. So Scrum is all about, Scrum and Agile mindset is all about being self-organized and a lot of collaboration. So Scrum team could be from size of like 5 to 9 people. We don't want to keep less than 2 people. We don't want to go beyond 9 people. Or 5 to 9 is a considerable size for a good Scrum team. So that's about the Scrum roles. Then they also help in the estimation. So the development team does the estimation of the user stories. Scrum ceremonies or events. So what are the Scrum ceremonies or events? So these are meetings that happen at a particular time on a particular cadence. Few of them repeat every day, and sprint on sprint, this particular ceremonies or events will surely happen at the same time and usually for the same time boxes. Okay, so that's about these Scrum ceremonies. Let's try to understand more about the Scrum ceremonies over here. Okay, so the first one is sprint planning. So what happens in a sprint planning? So when does this happen first? It starts at the beginning of each sprint. Sprint planning happens at the beginning of each sprint. So that's the first thing in a sprint. Then usually for a 2 week sprint, sprint planning happens for 4 hours. Over here, everybody, the development team, the PO, the Scrum Master, everybody is available. The PO prioritizes the work that needs to be done. You would come and say, okay, fine, these 10 stories is what I need you to build in this particular sprint. Now, then after that, the development team decides the goal, what can be built based on the capacity of their work. Okay, so the dev team commits to the sprint goal. So out of 10, they would say, okay, fine, we can do like 6. This is what we can do at a sustainable pace. So in this particular sprint planning meeting, the breakdown of stories also happen. The breakdown of tasks, the features, more details are evolving. So we're kind of decomposing the features into smaller parts. And usually it's called as user stories that will be used to develop the software. Then estimation of user stories happens in the sprint planning. Then Scrum Master acts as a facilitator in the sprint planning meeting. Okay, so these are some of the important points on sprint planning. You should be able to answer many questions on sprint planning with these inputs. Okay, so the next one is the very important thing. This happens daily. It's called as the daily stand-up. Okay, so in this meeting, we're talking towards the progress towards the sprint goal, right? We're coming and discussing that. So it happens every day for 15 minutes. We ask 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I planning to do today? And do we have any blockers? Then people watch the Scrum board and see how things are moving from left to right, from to do to development, or to do to design, development, and testing, and then validation, and then done. Okay, so people refer the Scrum board. So everyone joins this particular meeting. PO is optional for the daily Scrum. It's not mandatory for the PO who comes for daily Scrum or the daily stand-up. So daily stand-up is more like a commitment to the team wherein people come and tell what is it they're working upon, right? So it's more like a commitment than like more for progress update. And this is used to remove blockers. So Scrum Master understands what are the blockers. He works with the team to remove these blockers. And then this daily Scrum is just for 15 minutes, right? We are not doing any kind of problem solving over here. So problem solving teams should have separate meetings. RC is not done separately, not in this meeting. So we inspect and we adapt in this meeting. Okay, so that's what we are doing, the empirical way of working. So in the daily stand-up, we are inspecting and adapting what needs to be delivered. So that's about the daily stand-up. Let's go to the sprint review. So sprint review is very, very important because in this meeting, we are actually seeing what the team is going to demo. The team does a demo of the working software. This is what we have built, and this is how it looks, right? And then we have got PO and other stakeholders will come and validate. So in the sprint demo, so we also are looking to, did we meet the sprint goal? That's also been looked into, and then we get feedback from the PO, from the users. Have we met the sprint goal or not? Retrospective. So again, the retrospective happens after the sprint review, wherein people think to make things better for the next sprint. Okay, we ask questions. We kind of set a state, and we ask questions like what went well, what can be improved, what are the action items, and then people are asked to be open for feedback, right? People are not like, okay, so the development team didn't do a good job, or the testing didn't do a good job, or the requirements were not clear. So this is where we have to come and show the one of the values of Scrum called as courage and openness, wherein people open up feedback and people are like strong enough to give courage enough to give the feedback also, right? So that this is the regular interval check that happens in one of the agile 12 principles in agile, right? That's the retrospective. And PO is optional over here, so it happens towards the end of the sprint. It will kind of run for at least say an hour or something, so that we can gather feedback and make improvements. Okay, I have had retrospectives wherein the customer also used to join and take feedback and then improve things at their end. We would improve things at our end. So that's the retrospective. This is very, very important. This is where we do the course correction. Okay, this is the inspect and adapt, the pillars of Scrum, right? So we're giving feedback. Transparency is there. That's one of the first pillars of Scrum. Okay. So now let's go to the next part, that is Scrum artifacts. So what are the Scrum artifacts? We talk about the product backlog. So product backlog is the list of items which we have. So if you see here, so the product backlog, the number of stories, user stories. So it's all these 10 user stories which we have. So that's the product backlog with us. Let me just use a different color. So this is kind of the ownership of the product owner. The product owner owns the product backlog. So he's putting all the features. I just listed 10 features over here. It could be more than that. So 10 user stories are there. So that's the product backlog we have. And it has got a priority. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So the most important ones will get done first. So that's about the product backlog. Let's try to understand more about this. Okay, here we go. So it is owned by the product owner. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. Anyone can add items over here. So the product backlog, is the development team also can add the items, not just the product owner. Even the Scrum Master can add. Anybody who knows that something needs to be built for the project can be added over here. It's usually a Jira story. So we use a software called Jira, where you can add stories, or any software where you can go and add inputs. If there's no software, then you can just use Excel sheet and add inputs. Okay, so then most important part, the prioritization in product backlog happens from the PO. Okay, so PO is the person who does the prioritization for us. So prioritization done by PO. So this could be a question in any of the exams. They're going to test like who's going to do the prioritization, right? Okay, great. So next we have got features, stories, and tasks are listed in the product backlog. There is an order of the product backlog, 1, 2, 3 prioritizations are there. And then the product backlog, the D means is detailed, it is emergent, it is estimated, and it is prioritized. Okay, and it's never complete. Things keep on adding for product backlog. We then take a decision, okay, fine, this is where we're going to stop and now put things in production, and post production and keep adding on things as CRs. That's about the product backlog, the Scrum artifact. You get some questions on this and can answer those. Next one is the sprint backlog. Now, from the product backlog which we had, okay, so what we are trying to do now is from this list, we are going to pick up something for the sprint. Let's say this 4 user stories is what we're going to print. So this becomes the sprint backlog. Of all the 10 items, these 4 items become the sprint backlog for us. Okay, so and the remaining are still in product backlog, but we'll focus on this particular items for this sprint. That's what happens in a sprint backlog. Okay, so it is maintained by the team, created in the sprint planning, who does what is decided in the sprint backlog, and then what can be done in the sprint goal is decided. So that's happened in the sprint backlog. So finally, the artifact is the product increment. Product increment is nothing but at the end of the sprint, what is the working software we are going to deliver? Okay, based on this four user stories, what is it that's feasible and that's working? Okay, so the working software based on these four user stories is kind of being delivered over here. Okay, so that's what happens as a product increment. So let's try to see what are the points we have. So it's the value of the current sprint and the value of the earlier sprints also is the product increment. We just restricting it to the current sprint. The old sprints are also considered. Then it is the working software, the thing that we need, the most important thing, right? So working software is the most valued thing. So it's the working software that we have. And then it is the demoed software, right? So what has been demoed to the customer. So those are the Scrum artifacts we have. I will now show you how to plan a 10-day sprint capacity. A 10-day sprint capacity, how do we plan? When do we kind of have these sprint ceremonies? What duration? How many, what is the capacity? What is the effort? We'll now plan all that. 10-day sprint capacity planning. Let's get started off with that. Okay. So let's say we have got 3 developers, 1 QA working on this particular sprint. So for the 10-day sprint, it will be like 80 hours per person for the entire sprint. So it's coming like 320 hours. Now, is this the total amount of time that we need to have for the sprint? So is this the total capacity is what looks like right now. But is that the actual capacity? Is it the ideal situation? No, people take leaves, right? So at that time, what do we do when people take leaves? Okay, so at that time we have to look into this and then see what happens. Okay, now let's say somebody goes on leave. So now we are seeing that there are 3 people who are taking leave, right? So like one person on off on 2 days, one person is off over here, and then there's a public holiday. So you see how days are lost. Now 320 has become like 264. That's the capacity. Now, should I take work equal to 264 hours? No, because it has been found out that people are productive to 60 to 70% of the time in a day. So we put a multiplier of 0.7 and 264, that gives us 158 hours of work. So this is the effort. See, your capacity from 320 hours is now transferred to 158 hours for the sprint, right? This is the amount of work you should be picking for this sprint, for a 10-day sprint to deliver. The valuable software that comes out should be equal to this number. Okay, so that's where you're not going to have spillovers. That's a sustainable way of working on development. You'll meet the sprint goal. So sprint goal cannot be beyond 158 hours. Get this right. Okay, so many people don't understand the concept of capacity and effort. So effort then translates into your velocity. The next one. So now let's see, try to understand what ceremonies happens when. So the first one is your sprint planning. So the sprint planning happens on the first day of the sprint for 4 hours. So on day one, we have the sprint planning. It's for 4 hours. So the entire team, the development team, the PO, and the Scrum Master, everybody join and they have the sprint. Then we have the daily stand-ups every day for the next 10 days. The daily stand-up is for every day for the next 10 days, and duration is 15 minutes. Then on the last day of the sprint, day 10, we have got the sprint demo. For a 2 week sprint, it could be a 2 hour demo. And then we have a retrospective for an hour. So this is where the ceremonies are planned in the sprint. So this gives you a clear picture. If you have now done Scrum sprints earlier, use this particular sheet and understand when are the events happening, how do you plan capacity, what is the effort. So that's all about planning a particular sprint in your Scrum. So if you have to summarize everything, then it will look like this, right? So sprint execution. So how does the sprint execution look? Looks like this. So for these many hours, okay, these are ceremonies that happen, and then you will have the product backlog over here. So whatever stories that can be developed. So let's say we have got say 1, 2, 3, 4 stories. So those are number of stories of the sprint which we saw earlier. That's your sprint backlog from product backlog. That's a sprint backlog that comes in. So those 4 stories will be developed in the sprint. Okay, with 260 with 158 hours of effort. Okay, so that's how the sprint execution happens, and these are the ceremonies that happen in particular duration. So that's about Scrum. We spoke about Scrum roles, artifacts, ceremonies, and capacity, effort, and then sprint ceremonies when did they happen. And now let's see what do we have next. Next, we will understand the some roles, events, and artifacts with a short quiz. This is the learning quiz, the knowledge quiz for us to understand like what we have studied. Let's get started. Okay, so what's the first question? So the first question says, I am a servant leader who guides the team in understanding and implementing the Scrum and helps people outside of the team to grasp it. So you know what is the answer for this? What is the name of this particular role? It is the Scrum Master. And what kind of thing is this? This is a role. Okay, he removed the increments, and this is the role that happens on the project. Scrum Master is a role. So what are the key words you have to look into over here? So the keywords are servant leader, Scrum Master, servant leader, and he also helps people outside of the team. He guides the team on the agile practices. That's what the Scrum Master does. I'm held at the end of the sprint to do an inspection of each item that the team built with users and stakeholders who were invited. So we're talking about inspection, we're checking something, right? When you're checking something, it is a sprint review, and this is an event. So what are the keywords over here? So the keywords you have are this end of the sprint. Okay, so inspection, right? Who all are coming to the sprint? The stakeholders. That's the answer is sprint review, and it is an event. Okay, good. Let's go to the next question. Okay, and how the team inspects itself, where they look for the things that went well and make a plan to improve things. So it's like at regularly we are checking on things, right? So when does this happen? It happens in an event called retrospective, and this is an event. So again, the keywords that you have to look in over here are these: inspects itself, make a plan to improve things, things that went well, and towards the end, right? Again, retrospective. Okay, so that's the answer. Let's go for the next one. Quickly, just few more questions and we are done with this video. Okay, I'm sum of all the items that the team delivers to the end users at the end of the sprint, and I can only be delivered if every item in me is done. So what is this? This is the product increment, and this is an artifact. Right. So again, the keywords, if you have to look in over here, the keywords are I'm all the items the team delivers to the end users, and I can deliver only if every item in me is done to working software. Product increment. Those are the keywords. It's an artifact. Let's go to the next one. I'm a group of professionals who actually do all of the work that needs it to deliver the software to users and stakeholders. Okay, so what do I do? So we are the development team, and it is a role. Okay, so it's very simple. Group of people working together. So that's the development team. All the work that needs to be done for the sprint goal, right? So that's what the development team does. Okay, so that's have. So next question. Let's go to the next question. I'm responsible for deciding what items will go into the product, and I have the authority to accept them as done on behalf of the company. So this is the product owner, right? And it's a role. So what does the product owner have? He is the person who is going to deciding what into the product. He has the authority and on behalf of the company, right? So that's the product owner, and there's a role. Next one. I have a 15-minute time box meeting held every day where team members create a plan for next 24 hours. Help every day. That's the daily scrum. It's an event. Okay. Next one. I'm what the PO helps the team optimize and maximize, and time the team tries to prioritize the items that have the most of P. I am the value. It's a concept. Okay. Fine. Next one. And the set of items team will build during the sprint along with the plan to build them. Okay, so what is this? I'm the sprint backlog, and it's an artifact. So the keywords, if you have to look in, team will build during the sprint. Okay, along the plan to build them. Right, the sprint planning. That's about it. And okay, I'm a time box meeting where the team comes with a sprint goal, decides which team items they will deliver, and decompose into tasks. Sprint planning is the answer, and then it's an event. Okay, so decomposition, planning, everything, all of this happens over here. Okay, so time box meeting, sprint goal, what items they'll deliver, and decompose, right? So those are the things that happen over here for the eraser. Okay. Okay, then next one. Let's go to the next one. I am an ordered list of items that might be needed in the product at some time in the future. List of items in product future, that's the product backlog, artifacts. So ordered list and future are the keywords. But that's it from this video on the Scrum. So those were the quiz questions. So that's about me, my profile. If you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel, share this video, watch this video a couple of times if you want to understand more about Scrum. It will actually help you in your exam preparations also. So all in all, I've just put the entire summary of the Scrum roles, artifacts, events, what is Scrum, and then the quiz questions. So, and how do we plan capacity and effort for a sprint? Thank you for watching my video. This is Aram Faraz. I wish you all the best. Please do like and subscribe, and please share this video. Bye bye.